color or creed. I'm glad to tell you tonight that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, has an answer to every problem that you face. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, has an answer to every burden that you carry.
If he had not become a man, if he had not put on a body of flesh and blood, he could not have redeemed us. He had to become a man to die.
In America, we don't worship government, we worship God. We want all children to have the opportunity to know the blessings of God. We will not allow the government to censor sermons, to restrict the free speech of our pastors and our preachers and the people that we most respect.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Billy Ray Parrish, with God's Gospel Radio Ministry, talking points from the seat of a nation. Again, I am Billy Ray Parrish, and today we will continue with our coverage of the 2020 presidential election. I don't want anybody to worry. I don't want anybody to feel anxious about what's going on right now, because this is all part of a bigger plan. First, 1 John 1:6 reads, "If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not the truth." Luke 12:2 reads, "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Nothing is hidden from God, and everything will come to light." There are many who cannot comprehend the light, and there's many in this country, within the political realm, and around the world, because they live in darkness. As Rod Serling simply put it, there is nothing in the dark that isn't there when the lights are on. And today's program is going to feature a lot of information. There's been a lot of research conducted, and we found a lot of results. It's going to be very interesting, so I hope you are up for it. I do not want you to worry, because as grim as it may seem or appear or sound from the media, things are going just as planned. Maybe you'll remember in our last episode, we discussed the Dominion voting system, and we discussed it in depth, and other similar software programs to aid in the election process. I have heard different people suggest that this fight, the one that we are engaged in, is not winnable. Many people say this, and that nothing is going to change the outcome. I've heard many people say this. I personally do not believe this for a second. Not for 1 second do I believe that this fight is not winnable. There is too much evidence right in front of our faces. We all see it. At least we should. We should not give up. There is too much dirt on too many people's hands to just walk away from it all right now. There is a country to save, and this fight is worth fighting. It's worth having. It's worth continuing to engage on. The outcome may seem to be already determined, and if you listen to the media, it's already been determined, and I understand that. But again, it's far from over. It's only predetermined by those who have not actually looked at the evidence that's there. They're listening to the corporate mainstream media, and perhaps those who are greatly invested in the outcome remaining as the corporate mainstream media is projecting. However, Edmund Burke famously explained, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And right now, we have a lot of good men and women fighting on the behalf of good. Think about this. You cannot spell triumph without Trump, and in the end, Donald Trump will win the 2020 presidential election. He did win the election on election night. He told us this in the wee hours of November the 4th, but it was taken away from him. It was stolen from him. Sadly, that's just the system in which we have in place right now. I do want to play you this video, because this video to me is very important. It's very significant that we see this. I showed it to you last time, but I really enjoy this man because he is fighting on behalf of we, the people. He doesn't have interest himself. I mean, in terms of finances and so forth. He's not getting anything out of this. He's fighting for a country. And thank God he is. Again, I showed this last time on the program, but it needs to be seen again.
And so with that being said, we have been able to bring someone into the fold. And I'm talking about someone who's probably has one of the most brilliant minds, legal minds, in this country. Yes. If you think I'm lying, ask CNN and some of those others who attacked everyday people and try to destroy their reputation and change their lives forever. Y'all join me in bringing in a fighter who's fighting for you, for Georgians, and this president. Y'all welcome Lynn Wu here.
Fight back. I love you too if you're not behind the camera and you remember the media. How you doing? I was sitting around Tuesday night watching the election returns. I've loved politics all my life, since I first voted in 1972. And I saw what I assumed was going to happen. I saw President Trump building up what I believed was going to be almost a historic landslide victory.
It was.
And then all of a sudden, every network, including Fox News, started doing what they do best. They started lying to the American public. And they took a victory from Donald Trump and they called it a lie. They took a defeat from Joe Biden and lied and said he won. And they sent you to bed, turning off the count of the vote so you could wake up tomorrow, the next morning like I did, and go, what happened?
So what did happen? What exactly did happen? And before we go into this any further, I want to tackle some things. A neighbor of mine the other day, yesterday in fact, called me and told me it was just about over for Donald Trump. He's seen where Trump is allowing for the GSA to go ahead with the transition. This is a formality, and that's all it is. Simply a formality. In fact, I want to show you this. I want to show you this tweet here from Donald Trump. Let your minds be at ease. Donald Trump says, what does GSA being allowed to preliminary work with the Democrats have to do with continuing to pursue our various cases on what will go down as the most corrupt election in American political history? We are moving full speed ahead. We will never concede to fake ballots and Dominion. He's letting you know right there, that this isn't over, that this is just a formality that goes on. It happens every 4 years. Every 2 years, whenever there's a transition from one candidate to the next. That's all it is. The media is doing what it does best. It's getting people stirred up. Do not worry. We have got this. I also want to tackle something with Sidney Powell, because there's been a lot of confusion. There's been a lot of misunderstanding going on here. Sidney Powell is not part of the Trump legal team in terms of she's not being paid. She is working on her own. She's independently working, but she has not gone away from the Trump team in the sense that she's still there. She's still working with Giuliani and Grinnell, and she's working with Jenna Ellis. She's working close to the president. They've got it. They've got all the goods, and it's going to come out. And I want to show you this. I want to. So here's the legal team here. Because this is a statement here, Trump campaign statement on legal team. Sidney Powell is practicing law on her behalf. She is not a member of the Trump legal team. She is also not a lawyer for the president in his personal capacity. Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani is Trump's lawyer. He's being paid by Trump. Ellis is as well. Not Sidney Powell, but they are working, her and Lynn Wu and others are working hard for we the people. I want to bring up this statement from Lynn Wu I want to show it to you guys as a way that we can and just get this out of the way, because it is very important that we do this. I want people to understand what exactly is going on with the elections, because it's far from over. And I keep saying that, but I do want you to understand it. Last program we were talking, I showed you a bunch of videos, and there's something that I did miss. You've probably seen it, but I want you to see it again, because I want you to realize what's going on. This guy here is going to walk you through it. It's a short clip, but pay close attention, because if you're not paying attention, you're probably going to miss it, because I did on election night. I mean, I was watching it, but I didn't see it. And it's just one more proof of what's going on, of the scam that they paid. They pulled over on us. This is the scam of the century. Watch this. This is really interesting, and it just illustrates what Trump is fighting against.
Now this is live, CNN, November 3rd, 2020. Pay attention to Donald Trump's vote count here and Biden's vote count. What you're going to see is a transition. They're actually going to take 19,958 votes away from Donald J. Trump and give them to Joe Biden. You're going to see that coming up here in a second. We're going to play the whole CNN live clip right after this. We're going to see the numbers change here as Trump's numbers for Pennsylvania. It's the state of Pennsylvania. Pay attention to that. You're going to see Trump's numbers go down, Biden's go up, and right there it is. You see that? 1670. Now, before we go back here, go back to Pennsylvania, it was 1690, and it goes down. So let's play live CNN as they're bringing forth the numbers.
These are to be decided, and that would push, and again, if you come at this from a Republican perspective, I did Joe Biden's math to get him up. Donald Trump's leading here. He's leading here. He's leading here. We expect him to win here. That's his. This one's interesting. We expect him to get this, and these normally would be Trump states out here. Alaska. And Alaska. So, again, we're open to being surprised, but if it plays out in a traditional map, that's where we're going to be. That's where we'll be as we go to the West Coast, somewhere in that ballpark. This is not an exact science, but somewhere in that ballpark, looking at Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and maybe Iowa.
Now, we're going to be playing that again for your own peace of mind, so you know that your eyes do not deceive you. As you clearly saw, they took votes away from President Donald J. Trump and apparently gave them to Joe Biden, because the vote percentage does not change. It's still at 42%. And when you got almost 40,000 votes, that percentage would go up one. It should be at 43% right now if that vote would have gone up 40,000 votes. So please pay attention to the vote percentage here.
And these ones may take, some of them again, we may be into tomorrow and beyond. At the moment, we don't know that though. At the moment, these are to be decided, and that would push, and again, if you come at this from a Republican perspective, I did Joe Biden's math to get him up. Donald Trump's leading here. He's leading here. He's leading here. We expect him to win here. That's his. This one's interesting. We expect him to get this, and these normally would be Trump states out here. Alaska. And Alaska. So, again, we're open to being surprised, but if it plays out in a traditional map, that's where we're going to be.
Okay, so you get the idea of what's happening there. You've seen it a few different times. They were switching the votes from Trump to Biden while the counting was ongoing. This was not something that they did just behind the scenes. They didn't have to stop the counting. They were doing it right in front of us to see, right in front of our faces to see. This is sad, but they never thought they would be caught. Or if they were caught, they were just going to do what they're doing now. Projection is when you did something wrong, but you blame the other side or someone else, and they're blaming Trump for cheating and so forth. More of the same. Anyway, the tweet that I was looking for from Lynn Wu, just from a day ago, actually, It explains that Sidney Powell and I are more alike than we are different. We are fighting different legal battles for the same clients. We, the people, you and I, the 80 million people that voted for Donald Trump, they're fighting for us. The people voted overwhelmingly to re-elect Donald Trump. All interests are aligned. Hashtag fight back. They're reassuring us that they're fighting for us. There is nothing to worry about. I shouldn't say there's nothing to worry about. I really shouldn't say it in that manner. There's a lot to worry about. We saw what happened on election night. We saw that. Donald Trump was winning bigly. He was winning so bigly that they stopped counting in different states as a way to manufacture votes for Joe Biden. I can prove this. I am going to prove this. But first, let's go into more of our program, our show. So, before I go on, is it possible that I'm wrong? Well, of course it's possible. But this is not suggesting that, or what I'm suggesting, it's not from me. There are many brilliant minds across this country who are letting us know that the fight is winnable. The fight needs to continue. And if it is continued, we will win the fight. When I tell people this, most people that I know, the ones that I talk to, they don't believe me. They don't understand what's going on. They stop listening when I tell them this. I thank you all for being here, because if you're here, then you're listening to me. And I'm glad you're listening, because if you're listening to me, then you're not listening to Fox or another outlet like that. Thank God for that. I have been told by several friends of mine that this is not over with. I have told them that. I've told them it's not over with. And they tell me that it's over. There is no reason to continue the fight. This is just a way for Trump not to transition to Biden. That's not true. This was all part of the plan. I had a friend of mine, a neighbor, tell me that maybe Trump can run for president in 2024. I told him that he can't possibly run in 2024. It has nothing to do with his age. He doesn't understand. And when I tell him that the Constitution only allows for 2 terms, well, he doesn't get it. Think about it. Trump's not walking away. He fired Mark Esper a week ago. Does that sound like somebody who's going to be stepping down? A president doesn't stop leading in the last year of his term. I get that. You don't stop playing a game in the last quarter or the last inning or the last minute. You continue to play it through. That's what President Trump's going to do. January 20th, he will again be the president. He will just continue on. There's no transition needed. The Constitution does not allow for a president to serve more than 2 terms. FDR was the last one to do that. Now, the reason I believe so highly in this fight is that it's worth taking on. This is for the future of our country, the future of our nation. When I tell people that this was part of the plan, they don't understand. And let me explain what I mean. When I say it's part of the plan, simply means that Trump knew the playbook. He knew what was going to happen. He knew what they were going to do. Back in 2016, they tried the same thing. He knew it. I don't know to what extent that he knew things were going to happen. I'm not on the inside. Everything that I report is already being reported elsewhere. It's just I'm just giving you the message from other people. Much smarter people, people who are on the inside, people who know this stuff, people who are on the ground. Richard Grenell is a great example of this. Rudy Giuliani is a great example of this. Rudy Giuliani took on the mob in New York City and won. This is a guy you want on your team. He's a bulldog. Now the media is trying to discredit him with sweating and something running down his face. Maybe it was a hair gel. Maybe it was hair dye. I don't know. And the guy's an old man. Maybe he wanted to put something in his hair. I don't know the situation. But the media is trying to discredit him for that. It's what they do. It's what they do best. Fox News is no better. Kristen Fisher, when when Trump's legal team with Sidney Powell, Giuliani, and Janet Ellis and others gave the press conference about a week ago, Kristen Fisher did everything she could to dismiss all their claims. You don't win in the media. You win in a court of law, and they know this. That's why they don't care about what the media says. It would be a lot easier if we had fair press coverage, but guess what? We don't. We don't have fair and balanced media anymore. 90% of the corporate media owned by such corporations. That's why it sounds the same. That's why all these companies sound similar. Fox News is no better. The president's lawyer, one of his lawyers, Joe DeGenova, or DeGenova, however you want to say his name, his wife, Victoria Townsend, have both explained that Fox News is bad. A few years ago, Joe explained that Fox News beholds the George Soros. It's true. Go back and watch the tape from a few months ago when Newt Gingrich was on Outnumbered. He brought up George Soros. The host of the show, Harris Faulkner, said, "Do we have to talk about George Soros?" That let me know there is something with a foul. But Joe said that they are beholden to George Soros. This was some time back. And, well, they showed their true colors there on election night. And their ratings are plummeting. There's a reason their ratings are plummeting. It's because they're not fair and balanced anymore. It's because they're just like every other or most other stations. But anyway, that's Fox. Just do not buy into the false narrative that Joe Biden is the president-elect. This is a nightmare of a scenario, but it's not real. It's all smoke and mirrors, and that's all it is. Joe Biden is not going to be your president. Again, one of my neighbors called me yesterday to tell me that it's over for Trump, but it's not. We talked about the GSA, the transition, and so forth. Trump says, what does that have to do with anything with continuing their efforts? Trump's not going to concede. Many of the ones on the ground have said that Trump is going to continue to fight until he sounds the alarm and no more. But he's not going to concede because they have this won. They know this. They have it all in the bag. Now, Rod Serling points out, for civilization to survive, the human race has to remain civilized. Unfortunately, that's not what we have. We're talking about a stolen election. That's not civilized behavior. Proverbs 4:19 points out, the way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at what they stumble. They can't see. Now, before we continue on with Dominion and other software that was actually used and what it does, I want people to understand, again, I stress this is part of the plan. And I'm going to show you this, that for several years now, Donald Trump has known about this. He has known about the corrupt system. This is the only system that we as Americans know. It's the only voting system that we have. Donald Trump knew what was going to take place. Again, I don't know to what extent he knew, but he knew that something big was going to take place. And he has fought from day one to get rid of the bad actors. Of course, the CIA and FBI both are compromised, so you can't trust them. And it's not just the bad actors that he has set out to get rid of, but it's the system itself. And I understand. I told a friend of mine that this sounds out there, and I get it. It sounds too far out there. It actually sounds like an episode of The Twilight Zone, and it does. But unfortunately, the truth is much stranger than fiction. And we've witnessed this over the last few years. Yesterday's conspiracies are now today's realities. This is not something that I have made up or pulled out of thin air. And it's not. Donald Trump has informed us for months what was going to happen. In fact, Donald Trump has kept us up to date each step of the way if we were paying attention. And I'm here to help you along in case you haven't or in case you just don't understand. And I didn't understand a lot of this. When Trump won the presidency, I didn't understand what was actually happening. I knew that he would make a good president because of his business knowledge and business sense for the job and so forth, but I didn't understand what he was up against. The cabal, the deep state, the swamp, it runs deep. It's in every country. It's not just here in America. Mike Pompeo said a few weeks back, maybe 2 weeks, that the world is watching. And the world is watching. It really is, because everything that happens to America impacts the world. We are the #1 superpower on Earth. Over the last few years, well, let's go back a couple of decades, in fact, there have been a couple of many administrations who have tried to make us just like everybody else, and that's sad, but that's the truth of it. The push for the New World Order is real. We're not going to talk about the New World Order today, but just know that this is a much broader push or strategy by the deep state, the swamp, or to implement the New World Order, and eventually it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're not going to be able to stop it, but in the meantime, while we can fight, we have to fight. All right, so again, back in May, in reference to the mail-in ballots. This is nothing new, sadly, and we have witnessed this all the way back 2016, and the president even tweeted about it. And I've got this tweet up here, and I want you to look at it because it shows you that Trump knew the playbook. He knew what was going to come. In addition to winning the Electoral College in a landslide, I won the popular vote if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally. This was November 27th of 2016. When I say Trump knew the playbook, he knew the playbook, and he's been telling us since, along the way, he's let us know what was going on. In fact, let's go back 4 years prior to that. And Trump's a genius, I tell you this. He's known about this for a while now. Here's a tweet from Donald Trump back in 2012. More reports of voting machines switching Romney votes to Obama. Pay close attention to the machines. Don't let your vote be stolen. This is exactly what's been happening for a while now. All the way back in 2012, this was going on. Of course, we both know, or we all know, that Romney is deep state just like Obama. Romney was not a fighter, and he still is not unless he's fighting against Donald Trump. This is why President Trump has said on different occasions, if Romney had fought Obama as hard as he's fought himself, President Trump, he would have beaten Obama. And that's true. And we have enough evidence to understand that now. But again, these people are no different. Obama, Romney, Bush, Kerry, Clinton, the Clintons, they're no different. Chris Christie's no different. He's a swamp rat. I'm not sure he can swim, though, but that's here or there, here nor there. Now, I want to talk about a contractor with the CIA and the Department of Defense, Dennis Montgomery. You may have heard his name. I have probably mentioned him different times on this program over the last few days. In recent years, he's turned whistleblower, and he did so for the right reasons, because he created the scorecard or hammer program. He created the algorithm which is used to switch votes. On the last program, we talked about Sidney Powell talking about an algorithm that was used to change votes from Trump to Biden, and that's what happened. Well, this was created by Dennis Montgomery. In 2015, he turned over 47 hard drives that contained millions and millions of pieces of evidence, data, hard data, to the FBI and the Department of Justice, and they did nothing. On the hard drive, it showed what was going on. It showed that President Obama had used this system in 2012 in Florida, where he beat Mitt Romney by a few percentage points. I believe it was 3 points. My point is, this has been going on for a while. It's nothing new. But they didn't do anything about it. Why not? Well, James Comey was head of the FBI at the time. We know about the sad saga of James Comey. He's a swamp rat. Eventually, James Comey is going to be in front of a judge, probably there in Guantanamo Bay. That's a long story in itself. We will not go into it. But I do want you to know that what we're experiencing now with the Dominion voting software and other similar programs, it's all a family. It's all a family of programs. It's nothing new. It was created to take away votes, to change votes, or in some cases to delete votes. And I have the evidence to show you. If I have this evidence, if I have this stuff, you know these great lawyers have it. Sidney Powell's got it. Lynn Wood's got it. Giuliani's got it. Grinnell's got it. There's a reason why these folks are confident that Donald Trump will be president for 4 more years. Unfortunately, we have to let this play out. And it will play out. I know Antifa, maybe you've heard this, maybe you haven't. But yesterday, Antifa put out a letter to Donald Trump telling him that if he does not concede by noon Sunday, his supporters will pay the price. They will go to conservative cities and block traffic. They are armed and they will retaliate. This is a threat from Antifa to the president and to his supporters. Do not let fear get in the way. And I'm surprised I'm saying this. I'm not a big FDR fan, but FDR said the only thing to fear is fear itself. Do not let this get in the way of doing what is right, what we should be doing. Unfortunately, this is a plan to deter people from actually coming out for Trump. I have heard people encourage Trump to hold rallies in different cities around the country. He may do that. I don't know if he's going to do that. Donald Trump is right now awfully quiet for Donald Trump. That tells me he's not fretting this. He knows what's going on. He knows this will play out. I'm sure most of you remember 2000. Bush v. Gore. It was a very tight election. Gore was the president for 30 plus days. In fact, a lot of the things that we're seeing right now, we saw in 2000. A lot of the challenges that Gore put forward, that Bush put forward, was kicked out and by lower level courts, and he sent it to the Supreme Court and he won. Gore was no longer the president. Joe Biden is the president-elect, or projected president-elect. That's all he will be. And it won't be much, I shouldn't say it won't be much longer. It'll be 2-3 more weeks. If it goes to the constitutional routes, if it goes to Congress through the House, it'll be a little bit longer than that. But stay tuned. It's going to happen. But I got some real hard evidence here that I want to share with you because, again, like I said, this program is going to be very in-depth, very detailed. As we talked about on other programs, there were many votes switched from President Trump to Joe Biden. Many others were just completely deleted. In fact, Pamela Geller, who is a very good investigative reporter, explained how fraudulent the Nevada election was. On November the 21st of 2020 at 11:02 a.m., she points out that in Nevada, the total ballots that were cast 1,327,394. Total presidential election votes, 1,405,376. She explains that there are 77,982 more votes in the presidential election than there are casted ballots in Nevada. Of that, Biden has a 33,596 margin. That was his lead as of November the 21st of 2020. Take that in for just a moment. This is 750,000 more votes casted than total ballots, which, again, cannot happen. How do you have precincts in different voting districts where 100% or 100+% of the voting population turns out? I just learned this about a week ago in countries like Australia, where there is mandatory voting, forced voting. You have to vote. It's not a right, it's something that you have to do. The best turnout you'll get is 90%. You never get 100%. So even when you're forced to do so, people don't do it. So you're going to tell me 100% of Nevada residents turn out? There's a lot of fraud going on there in Clark County, which is Las Vegas, Nevada. I guess whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, which you take that for what it's worth. I've never been there, but never want to go there either. Okay, so in a previous program, we mentioned the state of Virginia. The state of Virginia is one example of what we have seen on a wide scale. In fact, I want to show you something here with the state of Virginia. This is very interesting because, well, it's just one more piece of evidence of what we're dealing with. Look here. I want to show you in here with the state of Virginia. On November the 9th, 2020, Ms. Geller writes for the Geller Report. It's captured in real time moment in Virginia at 5:12 a.m. when 169,000 votes just disappear off the state total. She provides this picture to show that these votes just disappeared. I believe the last program I said it was 5:10 in the morning. It was actually 5:12. I apologize for that. Sarah Eaglesfield provides this picture. And what I love about technology is that they used it for our defeat, but we're actually using it to turn it around on them. Again, if I've got this stuff, you know President Trump and his lawyers have it. The great thing about what's going on right now is that there's more and more proof that's coming out. Think about the moment when Michigan counted 149,772 votes in just 5 seconds, and less than 6,000 of them were for Donald Trump. Think about that. Think about that. That's almost impossible. Arizona is similar, as they counted over 2 million votes in just a short period of time, but it took 2 weeks to count the rest of them. In fact, Praying Medic tweeted out on November 18th, 2020, how did Arizona count 2.3 million votes in 10 minutes, but it took 2 weeks to count the remainder of votes? He also asked, why did Arizona stop counting votes for 1 hour and 5 minutes on election night? Okay, so back in May the 12th of 2020, a government watchdog group explained that there were 30,000 registered voters in Detroit, Michigan, 30,000 more registered voters than actual eligible voters. So it should come as no surprise that Detroit, Michigan, or Wade County is in the spotlight right now. Fraud, irregularities, and anomalies are being found left and right, including threatening and harassing Republican legislatures. The vote to certify Wayne County was 3-1 when 2 Republicans come out and explain what was happening. Both of them voted to certify, then they rescinded it, then one of them actually went through with it. Do you see what's going on here? They threatened their families. They threatened harm to them. And this is what Antifa is doing to us right now. No good ever comes of this. This is lawlessness. And I've got a real deep study, and I thank God that I found this. Russell Ramsland of Allied Security filed his own affidavit. In his affidavit, there is a lot of significant causes for concern. There are a lot of red flags and statistical impossibilities. Not just improbabilities, but impossibilities. In his affidavit, it is said, and I'm quoting this from his affidavit because I want to get this right. Another statistical red flag is evident in the number of votes cast compared to the number of voters in some precincts. A preliminary analysis using data obtained from the Michigan Secretary of State pinpoints a statistical anomaly so far outside of every statistical norm as to be virtually impossible. Not improbable, impossible. There are a stunning 3,276 precincts where the presidential votes cast compared to the estimated votes based on reported statistics ranges from 84% all the way up to, and get this, 350%. Normalizing the turnout percentage of this grouping to 80%, still way above the national average for turnout percentage, reveals 431,954 access ballots allegedly processed. There were at least 19 precincts where the presidential votes cast compared to the estimated voters based on reported statistics exceeded 100%. How does that happen? Now, I learned something interesting the other day about Joe Biden. The Catholic Church is actually considering bringing him to sainthood because of all the dead that he raised on election night. If you don't get it, think about it. Joe Biden is doing great things here for the dead wherever he goes. And I just hope those of mine, the loved ones of mine who have gone on, did not vote for him. Now let's look at some of these cities and counties in which witnessed unprecedented turnouts. Bentonville, which is in Minnesota, 350% turnout. Monticello, precinct number 1, 144% of turnout, and that's in Virginia. Precinct number 2 in Monticello, 138%. Let's go down here to Houston, not Houston, Texas, but a precinct in Pennsylvania, which is Blair County, 101%. And then you've got other ones with 138, 138, 136, 104, 103, 102, 101. That's unbelievable. Did they actually think they were going to get away with this? Now look, I understand you've always gotten away with it. You've never had a fighter before. You've never had a fighter before, so I understand getting away with it or thinking that. But when you know what Donald Trump is about, you're either blind, clueless, dumb, or you don't care any longer. You're so desperate, you're willing to do anything. It's like a Hail Mary pass to the end zone at the last second of a football game. Rarely does it ever work, but sometimes it does. You try it anyway because it's a last-ditch effort. Now, in Ramsland's affidavit, there's a lot of interesting findings, and I'm not going to point them all out. I'm just going to point out a few of them. Okay, now, according to Ramsland, in his affidavit, there are the 4 spikes totaling 384,733 ballots allegedly processed in a combined interval of only 2 hours and 38 minutes. This is physically impossible given the equipment available at the 4 reference locations, precincts, and townships we looked at for processing ballots and cross-referencing that with both the time it took at each location and the performance specifications we obtained using the serial numbers of the devices used. And they go on to give the model number, and that's not important for us right now. It goes on to explain that without accounting for paper jams, replacement cover sheets, or loading time, so we assume 2,000 ballots an hour in field conditions, which is probably generous, he explains. This calculation yields a sum of 94,867 ballots as the maximum number of ballots that could be processed within this period of time. But you look at what they come up with. 384,750 or 733, which is almost 4 times the number of what but actually went down. Does someone smell something fishy, or is it just me? I don't know that I buy into what they're selling us, what the media is trying to sell us, but I'll tell you this. I want a do-over. There's a reason why Trump is calling for an audit, a nationwide audit. Trump's not fretting this. There's a reason for this. If I've got it, he's got it. Great thing about what we're doing here is that digital warriors are working and doing the job of journalists. I've heard people say journalism is a dying field or one that's dead. I believe there are many good journalists. But with that said, there are many who do not care for the truth. They don't want the truth. It's not about injustice for all. It's about whatever benefits them the most. And most journalists coming up are liberal. They're young. They have the heart. They want to change the world. You soon find out that you can't change the world by yourself. And that's for everybody. We have to do it together. These people stick together. There's another example here in Michigan. This was probably the first one that I heard about. I know it was the first one that I heard about, and it's probably the first one that most of you heard about in Antietam County, Michigan, where there was a report of 6,000 votes being switched from Trump to Biden. It was discovered only through a hand-counted manual recount. Without the recount, it never would have been discovered. Of course, when this happens and when it's discovered, they call it a glitch. I want to tell you something. When it's programmed to do what it does, it's not a glitch. It's a feature, and that's what this program does. Or the Dominion system, that's what it does. It switches. It's not a glitch. It's a feature. This change is important because it was not due to clerical error, which would be the glitch that came from an update, but it was the system that was certified, or not certified, but it was programmed to do this. We are skeptical of these assurances. He goes on to explain, as we know firsthand, this has many other plausible explanations, and a full investigation of this event needs to be concluded, as there are a reported 47 other counties using essentially the same system in Michigan. Think about that one now. Now, I've got more. This is interesting when we talk about Michigan. I believe the count is more like 69 precincts that were using this, or districts, counties, and so forth. I believe the number is more than 47 now. He explains that it is our belief, based on the information we have at this point, that the problem most likely did occur due to a glitch where an update file didn't properly synchronize the ballot barcode generation and reading proportions of the system. I don't believe that it was a glitch, not for a second. That's how they put it out there. but at least it was discovered. Because it was discovered, because they did the recount, we know more about what we know now. Now, here's another interesting finding. There are over 3,000 precincts where the presidential vote cast compared to the estimated voters is, get this number, 99% all the way up to, again, 350%. Think about that. Now, back to Michigan here in a moment. These kind of numbers don't exist in the real world. They can't. I mean, you have 350% of 100% population. This isn't yogiism. This isn't a yogiism, at least it shouldn't be. Yogi Berra used to say some really simple but dumb things. One being, baseball is 80% mental, the other half is physical. There's only 100%. Anyway, Giuliani points out that in Michigan and Wisconsin, we have overvotes in numerous precincts of 150%, 200%, and 300%. Giuliani is finding the same thing. They know all this. They have all this. Ramsland is explaining what Giuliani has explained, what Sidney Powell has explained. Lynn Wu has said different times that he has seen the evidence that Sidney Powell has, and every lie will be exposed. Every lie will be revealed. Okay, so back to Michigan. Ramsland's affidavit explains that 47 or 46 or 47 precincts or townships displayed a 96% or more, and 25 of the 47 of the turnout was 100%. How does that happen? I mean, just think about it for a moment. When we're seeing these things, I get what the media is doing. They're not reporting this stuff. Most people don't know about these things because they only listen to one source, maybe two sources, but neither source is reporting it. And it's really bad in some of these places. Some people have never heard of these things because they don't do their homework. Just imagine if we, the people, stuck together. Just imagine what would happen if we, the people, actually were up to date on what was going on. These things are not happening by coincidence. They're not. Think about what happened in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, they had a judge to change the election rules of the Secretary of State, but that cannot be done. He done this right before the election, which is unconstitutional because the Constitution says it has to go through the state legislature. They bypassed that. The Secretary of State passed this law, which is why a Pennsylvania court had to find that this was unconstitutional. He shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have been able to do this. Now, of course, the mainstream media downplays this, but every lie, every irregularity, and every little stunt that they pull will be revealed to the public. Again, I just want you to think back to Bush v. Gore for a moment, because Gore was the president for 30 days, well, more than 30 days. Joe Biden will be the president projected president for 30 or so days. Eventually, like Bush, Trump will be declared the winner. When they went to the lower courts, the lower level courts tossed out the suits. Donald Trump knew this was going to happen. His legal team knew this was going to happen. Why would you waste all your time and effort in a lower level court knowing it's going to be tossed out? Why would you reveal your hand in a card game far too soon, when in reality you know what you've got, you know the evidence is there, and you know what's going to happen? You know the turnout. You know what's going to be the eventual outcome. And that's what we're seeing now. You've got people like Tucker Carlson and other media outlets, media personalities who are challenging Sidney Powell to reveal what she's got. Now, she has shown some of what she's got, but she's not going to show everything she's got. You don't win in the media. You win in a court of law. I found this very interesting by Ramsland when he finds that until the tabulated voter turnout reached approximately 83%, Trump was generally winning between 55 and 60% of every turnout point. Then, after the counting was closed at 2 a.m., the situation dramatically reversed itself, starting with a series of impossible spikes shortly after counting was supposed to have stopped. You remember in Georgia, and we haven't talked much about Georgia. Georgia's an entirely different situation on its own, but in Atlanta and other places, the counting stopped. Why? It was said, at least in one area there in Fulton County, which is Atlanta, there was a water leak. A water pipe had busted. There was no contractor that fixed it, so they knew that wasn't true. The counting stopped as a way to manufacture votes for Joe Biden. Trump was winning so largely that they had to stop the count. They called Arizona for Biden before, or at least Fox News did. They called Arizona for Biden before they called Florida for Trump. Trump won Florida easily. Biden is not going to win Arizona. He's a projected winner, but with all the fraud that's going on in that state, we know that it's not going to stand. It's just not going to stand. Now, I want to show different things here. I want to show you this map, and I know everyone's seen this map. This is from CNN. This is what their map looks like. All these counties on the northeast here went to, all these states on the northeast went to Joe Biden. That's understandable. Up there in New Hampshire, Trump did get a vote, just like here in Nebraska, Joe Biden got one. Two of these states are not winner take all as they divide up the electoral votes. An interesting point is Donald Trump was the first Republican since '88 to actually get a vote up there in New Hampshire. Truth be told, Donald Trump actually won the state of New Hampshire, but we will talk about this in just a moment. Here's the map, how it breaks down. It's interesting when you look at that number 306 for Joe Biden. That's exactly the vote total that Donald Trump had in 2016. He won 304 electoral votes, but 2 of Hillary's electors actually voted for Trump, giving him 306. Is that a big coincidence? Well, think about it for yourself. You draw your own conclusion. Colorado, of course, that's Colorado is a very liberal state. They've legalized marijuana. Governor's the first openly homosexual governor in the country. Or it was, so, you know, it is what it is. Arizona was Fox News was the first one to call Arizona for Biden. Then most other media outlets followed suit. Nevada the same way. That's not going to stand because you've got so much fraud out there that's going to be tossed out. We talked about Virginia when over 100,000 votes just disappeared at 5:12 in the morning. How does that happen? I mean, if you're not messing with something, how does 500,000 or 100 and something thousand votes just disappear at the wee hours in the morning? Okay, and there's Georgia, all the irregularities that are going on there. They're just finding votes left and right, and not for Donald Trump, unless there's a recount going on. Then they're finding small votes, small portion of votes here and there, but they're finding videos. People have videos of these election people destroying votes for Donald Trump there in Georgia. So that's about to get ugly. Sidney Powell has vowed to blow up Georgia. It's going to be biblical, she explains. They have all the evidence. Lynn Wu filed a motion to have the 11-3 general election in Georgia rendered unlawful due to the consent agreement between the Georgia Secretary of State and the Democratic Party. More to come on that. Now, the reason I brought this map up is I want to show you what the real map actually looks like. This is from OAN, One American News Network, which reveals before the votes were switched from Trump to Biden, before the theft actually happened, before the things that all the irregularities that we've been talking about for the past hour occurred, this is what the map actually looked like. Now let that sink in for just a moment. Now let me explain what this is. This is what the map looks like before the cheating took place. Now how do we know this? The server that was seized in Germany reveals this. We know this because the server was actually seized in Germany. We have all the proof. It tells you when. It tells you when the votes were cast, when they were switched, from whom they were switched, and all the other pieces of data that would come along with it. See there, California? I was surprised by that as well. But when you think about all the illegal activities that go on in California, when you think about all the bad leadership there in California, how could they continue to vote these people in time and time again? Well, we know it's because of cheating. Now, look, there's Illinois, that's always blue. Colorado, Biden won some of the upper West Coast. You look at Oregon and Washington State. Then he won New York City or New York State, which, you know, the big cities, the big part of the borough of Manhattan and so forth. And you got Illinois that Biden won. Trump actually won Virginia. That's with the 100,000 votes remaining on his tabulation. And there again, in Pennsylvania, just to go back to that video that we showed earlier, there in Pennsylvania, you saw in real time almost 20,000 votes being taken away for Trump, which is important to keep in mind the percentage, because the percentage didn't change, only the votes did. It didn't change for Biden, it just took away from Trump. They were taking votes away in real time, which 20,000 votes, that's a lot of votes. And so we're seeing a lot of things that you shouldn't see, things that happen in third world countries that were actually happening here, and it shouldn't. Here's a tweet from Donald Trump. There is no way, zero, that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Mailboxes will be robbed, ballots will be forged, and even illegally printed out and fraudulently signed. The governor of California is sending ballots to millions of people. Anyone living in the state, no matter who they are or how they got there, will get one. That will be followed up with professionals telling all these people, many of whom have never ever thought of voting before, how and for whom to vote. This will be a rigged election, no way. It's almost as though Donald Trump knew the playbook, because, as we've already illustrated, he did know the playbook. Donald Trump is a genius in many senses. I want to show you before we go, because we're just about out of time. We're actually out of time, overtime, but this is Talking Points Overtime. I want to show you some of these here. This, for example, is proof of Michigan fraud. Look at what we're seeing here. Look at it. Look at the vote counts. You're seeing just how rigged Michigan was. And it's been that way for quite a while, actually. And you're seeing the switch, the old switcheroo, I guess you would call it. And it's sad because you're seeing in just a few moments of how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of votes are being taken away from Trump and given to Biden. And it just doesn't happen that way. You don't lose votes. It's like with YouTube. I had 20,000 views just drop off, just disappear. You can't de-watch a video, just like you cannot de-vote. They were taking votes away from President Trump and giving them to Joe Biden. Thankfully, we have technology that helps us see this and helps us see it in real time. I want to show you this with Wisconsin as well. President Trump tweeted this out to show us this. Remember, I want to point this out. This is in Wisconsin. Donald Trump said on November the 4th that he didn't want states to find large dumps of votes for Joe Biden at 4 in the morning. And happened here, it happenstance, 143,379 votes, all for Joe Biden at 3:42 a.m. Is it fair to say that Donald Trump knew the playbook? Is it fair to say that he knew what was going to happen? I think it's fair now to say this. Let's see here. I guess this is interesting to look at again. Virginia, I know I had it up here earlier, but just take a look at it. Most people would say, if I told them that he won the state of Virginia, they would say, well, you're crazy. Well, there's proof right there that he was winning 100,000 votes. They just disappear. How does that happen? If something's not fishy in the works, it doesn't happen. If they're not changing the votes, if they're not switching things, it doesn't happen. You don't, it's like with YouTube, you cannot de-watch something, although they say you can. As with voting, you cannot de-vote or take your vote back. On another program, we will talk more about the Seidel raid in Germany. It did happen. Sidney Powell explained that it did happen. She confirmed it. Louis Gohmert was the first one that I heard talk about it there in Frankfurt, Germany. That's a wild story. That is a wild story. But we got all the good. We got all the evidence. Here's the evidence right here. This is just what I've got. Think about what they've got. They've got it all. And again, we're running on overtime. And it was very deep. It was a very deep study. We had to go a little bit over. I'm thankful that you're here with me. I do want to tell you this. Do not worry. We've got this. Donald Trump's fighting for us. He's fighting on our behalf. His team is fighting for us. They are patriots. They are heroes. Sidney Powell has explained, because she's seen the server, she's seen the data, she's seen the evidence, that the media is giving Joe Biden 10 million more votes than he actually received. And Donald Trump is given 7 million less votes than what he actually received. He got 80 million votes. So it's probably fair to say, just based on the calculations that are given, Joe Biden did not receive the 69, 70 million vote plateau that Barack Obama did in 2008, which would mean landslide for Donald Trump. Remember, up until about 2 o'clock in the morning, Donald Trump was winning 55 to 60% of every turnout vote, of every vote that turned out. He was winning 55 to 60% of these votes. Then at 2 in the morning, when these counties and states just stopped voting, then they found massive drops for Joe Biden. And this was what mail-in ballots were for. This is the whole thing with COVID. COVID was all about getting people where they would send in their ballots. That way they could manufacture their own. I remember on election night Fox saying that as far as the mail-in ballots went, that Joe Biden won every state except the Dakotas, North and South Dakota, and Donald Trump won the in-person voting in every state except California and New York. Now we know that, yes, Joe Biden won New York, but Donald Trump actually won California. And it may be hard to believe. I get it. But, again, here's the map from OAN, One American News Network, or OANN, 410 to 128. This isn't just some kind of mirage or fabrication. They have the evidence. They have the data. And it's all coming to a theater near you, because this stuff will be revealed. It's not going to come out to the media. If they reveal their hand too soon, you know what's going to happen. They know what's going to happen. If I know it, they know it. If I know it, you know it, because I'm not the most sophisticated person in the world. But I do know this. I can smell a rat when I see one. I can spot one most times. And I want to tell you something. These people are as dirty as it gets. Again, we're out of time. We're working on overtime, but this has been a very, very fun program. I really enjoyed this. I hope I have put your minds at ease somewhat. The election is far from over. The GSA, that's a formality. It always happens. Trump asks, why is it that they go forward with a formality? Does it stop them pursuing their legal battles? It doesn't. The media is trying to make it out to be. They have all the goods. Pray for Lynn Wu. Pray for Rudy Giuliani. Pray for Jenna Ellis. Pray for Richard Grenell. Pray for Trump's legal team. Pray for all the patriots out there. Pray for President Trump. But also, pray for Joe Biden. Pray for Kamala Harris. Pray for the evil ones. Your prayers may be the only ones they get. Nancy Pelosi says she prays for the president. We know that's not true, but if she does, I'd hate to hear what she prays about or what she prays for and to whom she prays to. Again, I am your host, Billy Ray Parrish, for God's Gospel Radio Ministries, the Seed of a Nation, Talking Points. Until next time, I hope you all stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much, but if you do eat too much, go ahead and just do it. I mean, the government can't tell you to do that, can they? And if you do go out, stay safe. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends. If you're in Chicago, it doesn't look like Lori Lightfoot's going to allow you to have Thanksgiving, but if you do, be safe. Thank each and every one of you for joining me. I am your host, Billy Ray Parrish. God's Gospel Radio Ministries, the Seed of a Nation's Talking Points. Before we go, I ask you to look me up on YouTube as well. I ask you to look me up on YouTube. But Rumble's the place. That's the place that doesn't censor me. They're a great new organization, an affiliate or an alternate to YouTube. Dan Bongino is invested in it. I love Dan Bongino. Check him out. And I want to leave you with this from Lynn Wu. I love this video. Thank you all. And God bless. And God bless America.
And so with that being said, we have been able to bring someone into the fold. And I'm talking about someone who's probably has one of the most brilliant minds, legal minds, in this country. Yes. If you think I'm lying, ask CNN and some of those others who attack everyday people and try to destroy their reputation and change their lives forever. Y'all join me in bringing in a fighter who's fighting for you, for Georgians, and this president. Y'all welcome Lynn Wu here.
Fight back. I love you too. If you're not behind the camera and you remember the media. How you doing? I was sitting around Tuesday night watching the election returns. I've loved politics all my life since I first voted in 1972. And I saw what I assumed was going to happen. I saw President Trump building up what I believed was going to be almost an historic landslide victory.
It was.
And then all of a sudden, every network, including Fox News, started doing what they do best. They started lying to the American public. And they took a victory from Donald Trump and they called it a lie. They took a defeat from Joe Biden and lied and said he won. And they sent you to bed, turning off the count of the vote so you could wake up tomorrow, the next morning like I did and go,